It's Malcolm MacPherson in Kingston, Ontario. It's September 27th, and my friend Keith and I are on our way camping to Sandbanks Park today. We're all packed up. We have our tent and our cooking supplies, our blankets and sleeping pads, and we're basically organized and ready to go. We've been traveling together for about 20 years, and we're all ready and everybody knows what they're doing, so it makes the trip easy. We're hoping for good weather. We'll probably get 2 days in, and if we're lucky we'll get 3. So that's about it. We just wanted to let you know we're leaving Kingston. It's about an hour and 20-minute drive to Sandbanks Provincial Park, and we'll update you from the campsite. Okay, have a good day, and I hope we do too. We'll talk to you later. Well, today is Monday morning, and we arrived safely at our campsite about 2:30 yesterday, and we set up the campsite, and it's early morning now, just after 7 a.m. You can see that we've had breakfast, and we have little chairs set up by the fire pit, and we have a nice tent, and it was quite mild last night. So this is our campsite at Sandbanks Provincial Park, about an hour and 20 minutes west of Kingston, and all is well. I'm going to walk down to the beach now, which is just across the road, and I'm very grateful to be able to be here. Times always haven't been so good for me, but I'm fortunate that I'm feeling well now. You can see we just walk across the road, and then we're heading for the beach on Lake Ontario. It's a very large beach, sort of like what you'd find on the Maine coast or in Florida. You can see the lake off in the distance. My lungs seem to be a bit better, and we'll just kind of pan around here. Just going down a hill here. Hope I don't fall. It's just after 7 a.m. You can see the lovely beach. It's a little overcast today. I'm a bit out of breath. Normally, there'd be thousands of people on this beach, but when you're here early in the morning, I guess the early bird gets the worm. It's like we own the beach. this morning. Yeah, as I said, times always haven't been so good. Lots of dark times with voices, hallucinations, and delusions. Sometimes you'd wake up in the morning feeling just fine, and then something would go off in your mind, some trigger, and at nighttime you'd be partially insane, not feeling well. But today is a bright day. Anyway, that gives you some perspective of what Lake Ontario is. The Great Lakes are very different from the oceans. The ocean waves have much longer wavelengths, but in a ship it would take 8 hours to cross Lake Ontario from the Thousand Islands to Niagara. So the lakes really are quite large. Anyway, we'll carry on with the tour at a later time today, and maybe if the sun comes up, we'll take some more footage of this beautiful beach. It's just like we're in Florida. Maybe it's a little bit better because there aren't very many people here, which gives us solitude and tranquility to be grateful for. Until later. It's now 10:30 on Monday morning. My video earlier was taken around 7 a.m. There's a little tent on the beach. I guess it's not as crowded as I thought, where it's late September and it's still early in the day, but it's a working day today. So, yeah. Anyway, while I'm here, I was lying in my tent just kind of musing about what words of wisdom I might have, and I may have mentioned it before, but my signature strengths, which I discovered in the science of well-being, the major ones seem to be spirituality, inquisitiveness, and perspective, creativity, and hope and zest. And it was said that spirituality was one of the best ones to have as your number one signature strength, because it interrelates with all the other signature strengths. But I'm very inquisitive, and I've always asked questions, and sometimes when I present or talk, before I get to complete, almost generally before I get to complete my train of thought, somebody interrupts me because I'm fairly quiet or low key, and they just think that partway through my comments is an appropriate time to interrupt me, so they never really find out what the conclusion is. But that seems to be the way a lot of people are. But as far as inquisitiveness, some people are inquisitive about the depths of the ocean and how deep they can go, and researching all about the ocean, and other people are inquisitive about space travel and deep space travel, colonizing Mars and setting up colonies on the moon, and very deep space through the telescopes and different techniques that they have, unmanned space probes for decades and years. But for me, the inquisitiveness is about the human mind, and prospectively my own human mind, because that's what I have some knowledge about. I used to have a psychiatrist for about 10 years, and at the end, when he discharged me, he gave me a very good discharge. Basically, I just forget the word, I'm sorry. But anyway, it was very positive. And he said, you know, Malcolm, you've kind of earned the right to say what you want about mental health, because in the case of schizophrenia, while textbooks and publications talk as though what they know about schizophrenia is fact, the reality is, he said, it's only a hypothesis. It's a great deal of the information in textbooks and in literature is only hypothesis. He said it's not scientifically proven. And to me, that raises questions of inquisitiveness. I know a certain amount about modeling, and while people call themselves experts, models are based on assumptions, and the models are only as good as the assumptions. And if the assumptions prove not to be true, then you know, the whole premise of things changes. And I'm just wondering about my own brain, and from my perspective, my recovery seems to be based a lot on reframing thinking and changing thinking and thinking differently about things through different specters of cognitive behavioral therapy and self-directed cognitive behavioral therapy and ACT training, acceptance and commitment theory, like pivoting and changing direction and building resiliency and just thinking differently. And when you do that, the circuits in the brain change completely, and the feelings in your body change based on how the brain neurons and synapses all work. It's all a big mystery, really, but you seem to feel well when you reach excuse me, a decision point or a resolution to some type of thought. And I'm not so sure about all this genetics theory myself. They say, oh, well, we discover certain genes and we've discovered this, and then they find out that different thinking patterns and emotions can turn genes on and off. So it just becomes a complex sort of attempt to unravel the genome as far as it pertains to the brain. And I just don't buy the whole story about a lot of what's considered fact with schizophrenia. I think a lot of it has to do with emotion and our thinking patterns and our conclusions. For instance, how we react to bullying and toxic situations. Like one person can react, it doesn't bother them, and another person will be traumatized for years about a particular situation, and they could be twins, identical twins. So it really comes down to how we frame things and how we think about things and what conclusions we draw. And certainly the brain can develop as it does develop in human development, and also it can change its thinking patterns, and it can get well from being not well. So all these questions are a big mystery to me, but what I do know is I'm just almost 90% better than what I was when I was first sick in 1977, and I'll explain to you at another time what I was like, but I couldn't imagine myself being any more sick back then. And I see the world very differently, and while I'm the same personality, I think very differently. So I just pose these as thoughts and questions that are mysterious to me. In our book club now, we're the philosophical book club, we're talking about morals and human morals and where they come from, whether they're evolutionary or whether they're learned or from your environment. And even that at the core level of an infant or a child in the womb, they're not really sure at this point. While some people may do good and be good and think good thoughts in reaction to things, other people think of malicious things to do or bad thoughts or almost evil kinds of behavior. So why are those people different? And then I asked our professor about, well, what are morals in relation to values? And he said, well, morals is the big picture, whereas values are more of an individual thing. So certainly I feel much better when I'm around people who are supportive and people who have similar values to what I have. And I have been in high school situations and that where razzing and making fun and almost bringing people to tears is kind of the mantra, and that's very bad for me, and I guess it would be bad for almost anybody else. And why people are that way when other people from different environments are very kind and supportive. So I'm curious about all this, and it's a big it's really a big mystery, but I seem to be sort of winning in some degree and coming to conclusions about myself. So I'll leave it at that, and we'll continue on later in the day. Just to continue where I left off last time, my theory, and I'm an amateur, but I have lived experience, and to explain my own recovery, my hypothesis is that schizophrenia is more of a developmental illness, being that if one's thinking is abnormal and emotions and reactions and suppressing feelings tends to be abnormal from a young age through to adulthood, it makes sense to me as a young brain, which is small and growing in size, has abnormal thought patterns, then it makes sense that the brain may structure somewhat abnormally, and that brain chemistry might get altered. So theoretically, if thought patterns become more normalized the way mine have, one feels better, and voices and hallucinations and delusions go away through unraveling them and using talk therapy and various processes to understand how things are working in your mind, and also bringing your conscious mind and your subconscious mind into congruence. And it just makes sense that this would certainly explain the twins' dilemma, where they have identical makeups, my understanding is, but their lived experiences are different. So one would get schizophrenia and the other wouldn't. And also, like, I can't go off my medication because I just don't know, or I'm pretty sure that my brain chemistry is probably influenced significantly by the medication, which is more or less a part of my brain. And if you could take me back to childhood or use prevention techniques to create environments where children wouldn't develop as abnormally to bullying and toxic behavior, and maybe process things differently and have supportive parents and teachers and friends, and maybe things might turn out differently. Nobody really knows, but if they can't really explain the basis of morals, then right to first principles exactly, then it makes sense that brain science continues to be somewhat of a question. And that's why I'm putting a lot of this information out to indicate my thinking, as well as being helpful to researchers and academia in mental health science, and also to people who are afflicted with this terrible illness and trying to make some sense of it. So I really hope going forward that some of the mystery is unraveled, as it is for space and deep ocean research and many other areas of the brain. It's complex, and I'm talking about me, myself, the way I feel in my lived experience, but I can't extrapolate it to other people. So maybe conversation and understanding will help to unravel some of this. There, we've just broken camp. It's rained, but it's cloudy but dry now. We've broken camp and we're on our way to the Merland cabin in Picton, Prince Edward County. And I just wanted to show you, it's windy here today. You can see the wake caps coming in and the birds down there. Lovely sand estuary. Good morning. It's Wednesday morning, a little misty and overcast. The air is very fresh and cool here in the Merland Resort in Picton, Ontario. As you can see, there's nobody here. I'm out on my balcony with my Weber barbecue and my underwear and my fleece. So all is well. You can rent these boats for $300 a day. But that's out of our price league. So far, our 3 nights, 2 nights camping, 1 night here, has cost us under $200 each. And we bring our own food from home. We have to eat anyway, so that's the way it is. You can see the beautiful view that we have. We're right on the water. Here's the sort of balcony and barbecue that we have. It's kinda can see we have all that we really need. The interior is open concept. We have a double bed and a double futon, internet, brand new stove and fridge, and a microwave. Everything's provided. We may extend another night just because we're here and have enough food. So basically, I see life as sort of a circle of love and relationship between different people, and that way it's a very positive, open way to think of things, where there's never really an end when you look at things through the lens of love and relationship. It's much better than being obsessed with anger, fear, and depression. And the way I learned in university, things were a continuum, but I don't like that model anymore, where it's one way or the other, on or off kind of thinking. It's quite negative, really. So that's just my 2 cents worth. I don't know what we're going to do today. We could visit a winery and sample a little wine, and of course the samples are very small, but it's a little bit of fun. We have a little soft tire, so we'll get that looked at Canadian Tire in Picton. So that's about it. Had breakfast. It's about 8:30 in the morning Eastern time, and all's well for the day. I'll try to take a picture on the ferry going across that Adolphus Reach when we go home, but that may not be till tomorrow. So think positive, have a nice day. There's hardly anybody in Prince Edward County. Sandbanks yesterday, hardly anybody. And it's only the end of September, so I don't know. I guess everybody comes in July and August, but that's the way it is, I guess. We usually travel off season, and that's why it's affordable for us. One other thing about mental health is you never hear social workers and occupational therapists talk about social mobility, but if you're nice to people and project a positive attitude, you'll get invited places. Maybe people have a cottage or going somewhere and they need a travel companion or a friend, or you'll get invited to a barbecue. But if you're a jerk, you probably won't get invited. So it's your choice, really. It's down to you. But social mobility, even if you're poor, can increase your standard of well-being and satisfaction if you savor the experiences that are offered to you. So it's really down to you at the end of the day. Well, that's it for today. Maybe I'll sign on a bit later, but we'll hope everybody has a good day. And looking left is the ferry. East is the ferry to Kingston. And here's the resort, Merlin Park Resort. And it's very good for meditation, meditating on sounds, on your breath, meditating on gratitude, and maybe meditating on intentions that you have. And you can savor your experience here as a positive one when you're down at home. So all we have to do now is go down to the Adolphus Town ferry and take the road along Lake Ontario back to Kingston, about 45-minute drive. Here we are on the Adolphustown ferry, and there's the Adolphustown Reach with a bed and breakfast and tapestry or tapas place up there where they serve charcuterie plates and wine and coffees. So it's all very nice. There's the second ferry going by. It's only a 15-second ferry ride. There's the ferry dock off in the distance. Good evening. It's been about 2.5 weeks since we returned from our camping trip in Prince Edward County, and we've had lots of time to savor the experiences that we've had and be mindful with gratitude of our good fortune on being able to go on the budget trip, which is very close to home and didn't involve a lot of cost and driving. I was a bit confused when I was talking about the genome in one of the segments, and it's a bit understandable because I'm basically out here on my own and I absorb information as I hear it, but I have to make sense out of it. And I got emailed a presentation from SARTA in Virginia, and Dr. Henry Nasrallah was the presenter, and he's a professor in Cincinnati who's prolifically researched and written academic papers, and he summarized where he felt science was with schizophrenia right now. And he said that it's the psychosis and schizophrenia is a spectrum of disorders. There's many disorders within the spectrum, and for me, I think I fall into the camp of environmental causes of my disorder. That seems to be what my lived experience tells me, and also that was supported by his presentation. There's many genes that contribute to schizophrenia, and as I correctly indicated in my presentation, they can be turned on and off. And I seem to have discovered through my own self-directed therapy and with talk therapy that I'm able to turn my genes on and off, so I can make myself a little bit sick, and I can also recover from it within about half an hour or so, just by managing my thought patterns and my emotions and my feelings. So for me, that's a huge step forward. The causes are probably genetic with neurological issues, but in a good environment, a healthy, nutritious social environment, as Dr. Laurie Santos outlined in her podcast, The Happiness Lab. We should all be mindful of what makes us feel good, and her example was our choices. Like, we can choose to eat junk food and feel badly as a metaphor, or we can choose to eat fruit and vegetables and nutritious choices and feel good as a metaphor, and those types of behaviors in me will toggle the genes on and off. So that's a brief summary to leave you there. There'll be much more in future videos about how I managed to solve my voice's hallucinations and delusions, and more about negative thinking and self-persecution. But right now I'm just trying to introduce myself and share some of my experiences, which contributed to me climbing out of the doldrums of negative symptoms. I haven't had negative symptoms in a very long time, and I'm motivated. My growth mentality helps a lot with that, but I just wanted to share my experiences, and what I'd like you to do is give me feedback and let me know if what I've been showing you in these first 4 videos and the next couple that are coming up, if it's been helpful. So feedback in adult education and presenting is huge. If you can let us know what your thoughts are. And also if you tick like, that helps too. And I wish everybody a good rest of the week and a good rest of October. And I hope to do the same. I have to work in my garden a little bit. I've shown you pictures of my garden. I'm in the process of digging it up and getting it ready for spring. And if I move along enough, I may plant a few tulips. So let the sun shine in, and sweet dreams, and good luck as we all move forward with hope and optimism.